Hey y'all, it's Jay, and today we're going to talk about another shot risk. This one is obstacle balls. And obstacle balls is object balls that are on the table that are in your way. It's that easy. There are really three categories of these. There are obstacle balls where you're shooting the 3 and the 8 is in between so you can't see it. That's the first one. The second one is you have an object ball that is blocking the pocket. That's the second one. And the third one is when you make inadvertent contact with the ball on your way to your leave. Now, you notice I said inadvertent contact. So I'm trying to get a leave on the 3, the 8's out here somewhere. Maybe I'm shooting the 2 down here in the corner from an angle like this, and I shoot, and it hits this side of the 8 and goes that way, or it hits this side of the 8 and scratches. It's inadvertent contact. Now you notice I said inadvertent. The reason I say that is that there are two schools of thought on contacting balls. One is that you should never contact a ball, that you should always work around the existing position. And there are a lot of players that believe in that. The other school of thought is that it's okay to contact a ball as long as you can control the contact so that you're not like randomly hitting it and causing a poor leave or a poor outcome. Now I happen to be in the second school of thought. If you've watched me shoot for any length of time, or you've watched any of my daily break and runs when I was doing those, I will frequently use a ball to guarantee position. Now the downside to that is that when you do make contact and we'll talk about this in a minute, but when you do make contact like that, you take the risk of either moving the obstacle ball that wasn't an obstacle and creating an obstacle, or you run the risk of hooking yourself. So we'll talk about that at length, and we'll do an entire video on contacting balls and controlling balls when you make contact. But right now, let's talk about this concept of the first one, which was when the cue ball, and this is not talking about when your opponent leaves you behind a ball. This is talking about leaving yourself behind a ball. Okay? So if I've got this shot and I have ball in hand, there are a lot of ways to get from the 2 to the 3. You can go off the 2, off that rail and down. You can go this way and down. You can go straight up and down the table. You can go off the 2, 3 rails and up. So how do you make the decision on which way is the best way to go? Well, for me, I think about the shadows of the ball. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about this concept of the shadow of the ball. Don't need that, we need that. All right, so if I want to make the 3, ghost ball or contact point, however you look at it, I need to make contact right here, correct? So if I can see the whole ball, but I can't get to that contact point, again, trying to get to the contact point, if I can't get to the contact point, then I'm not going to be able to make the ball. And I'm going to be forced to play safe or to do something like a swerve shot if I've got a little, or throw the ball in or something, or kick at it or whatever. But if I can't see the ghost ball, if the ghost ball is even the slightest bit obscured, then I cannot make the shot. Even though it looks like I've got a pretty good shot there, looks like it might be tight, but actually the edge of the 8-ball has it. And the reason I want to mention this is because I think of this in terms of shadows thrown by the balls. And what do I mean by shadows? Well, if I kill the lights, and I know I had a flashlight out here for this, there it is. And I put the flashlight where the ghost ball is. See the shadow on the 5? If my cue ball is touching that shadow at all, then I cannot make the ball. Okay, again, this is kind of how I think of it. I think of it as that ball is makeable. See, it's not touching the shadow. That ball is not makeable because the cue ball is touching the shadow. Okay, you see that? All right, another thing about the shadows to know is that the closer they are to a ball, and that actually extends all the way to the rail, I just don't have it there. So, all the way to the rail, move that out of the way. You see how that shadow goes all the way out to the rail? This is one of my problems with jump cues. Anything further out than about here, just about here, anything further than that is an easy jump, up until you get here and you're going to have a short landing zone. So jump cues kind of make you not have to think about the shadows. So think about this. Remember we talked about leaf zones and the leaf cones? Think about this as an anti-leaf cone. If I was to come off this tube and go this way, and go this way, you see how long I'm staying in that cone? Now, is the 3-ball makeable from where it is right there? Barely. Again, the 3 is actually right here. I had to move it for the thing. So you see how that's a long, narrow cone? Because the 8 is close to the 3. Or a long, wide cone is because the 8's close to the 3. If the 8's further back, now that shadow gets a lot thinner, right? You can see how much thinner that shadow is. Okay? If you have a wall of balls like I had set up originally, okay? Here's a wall of balls, there's room to get in between them and make the 3. But if you look at these shadows, I'm just going to pull straight back so we can try and get all 3 of them into here. So you see those 3 shadows? We don't want to land there, right? If the 3 is right here, then we don't want to land in those 3 shadows. So, how do we deal with this? How do we deal with and by the way, we'll take advantage of that at the time that we start talking about safety play. Okay? So how do we take advantage of this knowledge? How do we take advantage of knowing that there's these 3 areas and I can visualize them in my head? Okay, they come from the ghost ball, not from the object ball, from the ghost ball, and they go through the obstacle ball, and they have a slight spread on them. Okay, so each one of these is going to be along here. This one is going to be right here. Okay, and yes, I'm deliberately overemphasizing. How do we take advantage of this? What do we do with that knowledge? Well, if we have this shadow here, remember this one goes like that towards the second diamond, then we know that we don't want to spend any more time than necessary in that zone. And we'll come back to that because contacting those balls is bad. So we know we don't want to spend any more time than necessary in that zone. It's just like the leave zones. It's about the time you spend in the shadowed areas as opposed to the time that you spend, as opposed to the distance in them. Now, that's really important because when the ball's further, you saw that the shadow is much shorter and it's much thinner. If I'm here shooting at that 2 ball, yes, I'm going to pass through that zone of the shadow, right? But remember, just like leaves, with leaves, we want to spend as much time in the zone as possible, and we want to move up and down the zone, right? We talked about that in the whole leave zone concept series. On the anti-leaves, the shadows that we're talking about here, we want to, so this zone goes like this, right? So what does that tell me? That tells me I don't want to go straight up the zone, right? Because that keeps me in the zone much too long. Instead, I want to go across it. Our number one rule in shooting, or in leaving the ball, is we want to leave in the zone, and we don't want to cross the zone. We want to go up and down the zone. Well, with this, it's exactly the opposite. We don't want to spend time in the zone. We want to go across it, and we want to do so quickly. So if I had a shot like this one, okay, this 8 doesn't concern me at all from a leave perspective, okay? I don't have to worry about that leave at all, about that being in my way at all. Well, the 6 ball, if I look from the ghost ball, the center of the zone for the 6 comes here. Okay, so as long as I hit down here, I'm okay. If I hit here, I'm going to be in trouble, right? So I look at this and I say, okay, well, I don't want to hit here. I want to hit down here. So how do we shorten up the angle? Well, we shorten up the angle with either left or bottom left. In this case, I would use bottom left. Get in there. And see, I have 0 chance of ending up behind a ball. Yes, I took a longer shot. Well, what if I wanted a closer shot? Well, I could hit that with just left. We'll hit this with just left, making sure that we hit below that 3rd diamond. And see, we're in the leave zone for the 3 the whole way there, okay? We didn't have to worry about that 8 because it was up here. Let's go back to our original question. By the way, did you notice the cue ball landed where the 8 was? So let's go back to our original question. How do you leave this shot? Well, there are a few ways to do it. What we know is that anywhere from this edge of the 5 to this edge of the 8, which actually goes way down here to down here, we know that anywhere in this area, we're in trouble. So what do we want to do? We want to avoid that area. And in this case, what that would mean is that we want to hold the cue ball up. Well, I'm on new cloth. This is new, fairly new 760. It's a couple months old. But my using inside English to try to hold it isn't going to work. So what can I do? Well, I can go with that bottom left, go really wide, come down here and out for it, right? Because there's no, I'll be moving pretty quick when I pass through the shadowed area. Then I'll break free here, and anywhere from here, off the rail, and out here, I will have a leave, right? As long as I don't scratch. That's my only real concern here, is the scratch. So see, now I get my leave. And I was in no danger of being behind those balls. Okay. When I'm looking at a table, let's just go ahead and break these up. Let's go ahead and rack and break these. Okay, nice easy break. so that I can get a leave on the one. If I don't get a leave on the one, I will take ball in hand just so I don't have to keep re-racking and re-breaking until I do. Good, we've got some traffic. That's good. Okay, so the one's makeable in the side. The tangent line from the one going inside runs this way. Okay, so I have a couple of choices. I can go around the table, and if I do, then I'm going to go from there to there. The 8 ball's in my way. I'm just going to hit the 8. That's got some risk to it, right? We haven't covered that yet, but there is some risk to that. The second thing I could do is I could draw back and hit this side of the 4, bounce off the rail and out for the 2. I do have a shadow here from the 6. I have to make sure I hit it hard enough to get out for the 2, and not so hard that I leave myself a super hard shot. That's going to send the 4 down to this end of the table. Okay, and we're going to have all kinds of shadows we have to deal with if I pull this off. So let's go ahead and, actually, I think I'm going to throw this in and create an angle. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, that was a little weird one to deal with. Okay, now I've got the 2. If I shoot the 2 and I hit it for the corner, the cue ball is going to come this way. It's a pretty solid hit, so I have to hit this kind of hard. I have to put this in with enough force to let the cue ball bounce out and guarantee that I get past the 6. Because from here, from my ghost ball, that 6 has this much of the rail as a shadow. So this much is shadowed behind the 6. So what I have to do is I have to hit this kind of hard to make sure I get out. I would rather be out here with a rougher shot on the 4 than stuck behind that 6. So we're going to hit this fairly solid with some pace to get back out for the 4. All right, from the 4 to the 5. Now there are several places the 5 goes. It goes in all 4 of these pockets. If I try to leave it for that one, so there's a shadow here that I have to worry about, right in here. I don't want to be there. I'm thin enough on this 4 that unless I go here, there, and back over here, I'm not going to be behind it. So I'm not real worried about that. This looks like it might be risky. The only real risk here is the scratch in the other side. Personally, I would play that 5 in this corner, which gives me this angle coming up the funnel for the 5. So that's kind of my plan. Okay, so let's talk about this. I've got a little bit out of line on the 5. Here's the cut to make the 5 right here. That means the cue ball is going to come this way, which means I'm behind the 7. So I'm not going to try to roll this and stay down here for the straight in 6. If I were to do that, then I stand a chance of being behind the 7 here, and I could bounce off and end up down here behind the 7. I'm going to be passing through this shadow twice. So rather than take that chance, it's a little bit tougher shot to pull off, but I'm going to cut the 5 for the center of the pocket and come 1, 2, 3 rails and down here for this 6. And the reason I'm doing that is I know I'm going to pass this through this shadow twice. No matter what I do, I want to pass through it fast. So I would rather hit this and go around the table than try to stun it or try to draw it back and forth. If I draw this and try to come down and back up, I'm going to be behind the 7 all the way to the rail and all the way back. If I underhit it, I'm not going to be able to hit the 6. So in this one, I'm going to go forward. I'm going to go 3 rails and down into this general area for that 6. And I don't care which side of the 6 I'm on, I can get on the 7 from either side. And if I'm straight in, I can just pull back a couple of inches and be fine. So in this case, rather than trying to avoid moving the cue ball, I'm going to move it deliberately so that I'm not behind that shadow. And it's a natural route. Okay, there we go. So this is a little further from the cue ball, or from the 6 ball, than I would have wanted. Because of the angle, so the tangent line runs that way, I'm going to go ahead and go through to the other side of the 7 and play it to this side as well. Trying to hold it for that corner means putting a bunch of bottom right-hand English. There's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong. So I'm just going to kill it and let it roll forward for the 7. Okay, so we have no more shadows. I'm going to make the 7, I'm going to roll into the rail and across for the... All right, so this angle is a little touchy. It's makeable. I don't want to hit the rail and then hit the back side of the 6. That'll roll me down, but I do have to break out this 6. So I'm obviously going to push the 1 into the side pocket. And what I'm going to try to do is to run directly into the 6, because if I hit the 6 here, it's going to come off the side of the 6 and the 7. They're going to separate. The 7 is going to go that way. The 6 is going to go this way. The cue ball is going to roughly stop here, which gives me a leave on the 2, right? What I don't want to do is get behind these. If I get behind, obviously small shadow here, not real worried about landing in the shadow, but that hit on the 6 is the key to this whole thing. So I have to make sure that I hit the 6 to break it out, and I have to make sure, of course, that I pocket the 1. And you know what? This is so thin, I'm not sure I can pull it back enough. We'll try. Okay. So, and we're going to talk about controlling balls like that in another video. All right, so I made my... Okay, so we don't have a shot on the 1, so I'm going to take that ball in hand. Now let's talk about the 3 ball. So the 8 is casting a huge shadow on this 3 ball. If you look at where the ghost ball is, from there, there, all the way to there, inside the edge of the cue, is the shadow, okay? So on this I have to be really careful. I only have about this much space. Now, one way I can make that bigger is this leave zone from the 3, which is eclipsed by the 8, part of it's eclipsed, gets wider as it goes down, right? So I could either try to stop on this side of the 5 close, or I could go to this side of the 5. And if I go to this side of the 5, if I'm on this side, if I'm on the close side, I have from here to about here, about a 3-inch area to leave it. If I come to the other side, just across the side, I'm going to be coming in an angle out, and I can go all the way out to here. So I've got about a 6-inch area to leave it. So I'm going to want to come to the far side, take advantage of the wider part of the zone, and I'm going to be trying to leave it as close to the side rail as possible, even to the point of being frozen to the side rail. Why do I say that? Well, going from the 3 to the 4, if I just roll out just an inch or 2, I have a great shot on the 4. So that's what I'm thinking about there. So let's go ahead and shoot that. We're taking ball in hand, so we're going to put it in perfect position to do this. Okay, nice and close to the rail. We've got our shot. Now, in a real game, with the place that I had the one ball or the cue ball to begin with, I'd be shooting safe. There's no doubt about it. We'll talk about that another time. Okay, so let's talk about this 3 ball. What I don't want to do is shoot the 3 ball and come straight back. If I do that, I've got the 8 and I've got the 5 covering this side. I would have to draw all the way back to the center, and then I've got the 7 has a shadow here. So I don't want to do that. I really want as little ball movement as possible. So I'm just going to kill this and let it drift out just a hair, because I am a little bit closer to the rail than the 3 is, which means that the cue ball is going to naturally go that way. I'm just going to basically stun it. I'm actually going to stun it just a hair forward. Basically a true center ball shot. And that's so that I roll away from that 8. I don't want to roll towards that 8 under any circumstances. Okay? That is exactly what I was looking for. Now, shooting the 4, we're going to be cutting this thin into the side. We can't shoot it in the corner, that's a scratch shot. So we're going to be shooting thin, which means we're going to be coming pretty close to this end. Okay? Now look where the 5 is. 5 will go in either one of those corners. The 2 ghost balls are like right here. Okay? Those 2 points. This 7 has this whole area blocked, and the 6 has this whole area blocked, so I have to go past it, which is just fine because I can go 1, 2, 3 and right up the line of the leaf. So that's what I'm looking at on this shot, is cutting it thin, going 3 rails, and coming straight up the line towards this corner pocket. I would prefer to be on this side of the 5. But even if I'm here, I can always just stun to the rail and out for the 6. So I'm not all that worried about it. If I'm straight, I can draw straight back. So all I really want to do is make sure I get a shot on that 5 up in that corner. That is my entire goal here. This cloth is really fast. There's a pretty good chance that I'm going to overrun this. The good news is if I overrun it without hitting it, I have the shot up in that corner or in that side. This 5 ball's in the center of the table. It's fairly straightforward. Just got to make this 4. Okay, well, that did not work like I wanted it to. My right-hand English did not take on this rail. And unfortunately, that happens with new cloth. I got lucky. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I got lucky. Okay, so from here, I'm going to shoot the 5 in the corner, let the cue come here, shoot the 6 in this corner, just go up off these 2 rails and over for the 7, hopefully going straight across for the 8, leaving just a little tiny bit of angle, shoot the 8 in the corner, come out for the 9. There are no shadows left, we're just going to move on from here. All right, no shadows left, let's do another one. Kind of a good one. So first, shooting the 1, I'm just going to roll into the rail and over. I may put a little bit of right just to make sure I don't accidentally go forward and behind the 3. So a little bit of right-hand English on this, kind of just going forward into the rail. Not force following. Just more or less rolling into the rail. Okay, making sure that I'm not behind that 3. All right, so on this one, I can go off the 2, it's going to hit here, here, and it's going to come up here. There's no shadows to worry about, it's just making sure I get a lead on the 3. Actually, the only thing I have to worry about is hitting it, getting too thin, and ending up coming behind the 5. So I want to make sure I hit this thick enough to get that shallow angle into the rail and out. Other than that, there's nothing really to this. Okay, see, I got that angle going towards the 5, but I made sure I didn't hit it hard enough. Okay, from the 3 to the 5. We could draw it back for the 5, which is what I'm going to do. We could also hit it and follow and go 1, 2 rails and up for the 5, which gives us a much bigger landing area. We're coming into the lead zone properly, but you got the shadow of that 6 back here and you don't want to get there. So for me, this is very easy. Let's draw this back and keep the cue in the center of the table. Okay. And you know what? We only have one shadow left, and that's the 8 ball. Once we're past the 8 ball, once we get on the 7, we're done. This one's easy. So all we're going to do, a little bit of bottom right, we're going to shoot that in the corner, we're going to come off the rail and out for the 6. Actually, just bottom. Okay, we got kind of out of line here. We got really out of line here. Funny thing, that 9 ball is makeable from here because the tangent line from the 6 ball runs directly at the 9 ball. So you could try to make this 9. You do not want to do that. We do have the ability to shoot that 6 in the other corner pocket. Kind of not a fan of that shot, and you'll find that most pros will take the backward cut rather than the short side cut when they're not straight in. But that 9 is kind of really throwing me. So if I hit the 9, I have to force forward and get under the 7 down here for the shot up table. If I wanted to, I wish my dog would stop barking. If I wanted to, I could draw this, go between the 9 and the 7, hit the rail and die off for the 7. I could do that. I could shoot in the other pocket. I could come this way, 1, 2, off this rail, 3, and up this way. That does run the risk of getting behind the 8. I think that my choice on this is going to be to bottom left, shoot the 6 in, and kill it on that rail. Have it just die when it hits that rail. Okay, well, it died, but it didn't die enough. That's the problem with new rails. It didn't grab like it would on a used cloth. On a more used cloth, it would have hit this and just died, and it would have ended up about here. So now I've got a funky shot. No shadows involved. This is just, so you could run into the 9. What you want to do with this is just a little tiny bit above center so that it goes into the rail, because the tangent line is backwards. We just want to flatten it out on the rail. We want to put enough top to get it to the rail and out for the 8, either in the side or to come 2 rails and out here for the upper. Today I'm just identifying the risks and a few ideas of how to avoid the risks. We are going to move into, we're going to talk about contacting balls and controlling balls off of contact. And we're going to talk about, then we're going to talk about routes, then we're going to talk about some shots, and then we're going to put this all together into one gigantic, here's how I'm thinking about every shot on the table every time. Okay, so I hope you like what you saw. If you like, hit subscribe, ding the notification bell, and we'll see you next time. It'll be sooner this time around. I got through with this stuff that I was dealing with.